Hello, this is Sam Simon, also known as Dementia Man, for the week of March 22nd. Hope everybody here had a great St. Patrick's Day this week and you didn't get too drunk and everybody's safe. Um, even with a neurocognitive disorder, also known as Alzheimer's or dementia or frontal lobe or whatever, that you had a good time and didn't get pinched for not having grieved. What I wanted to do today, because it's come up a couple of times recently, to talk about traveling with dementia, with a neurocognitive disorder, particularly airline travel, and to talk about how to make it easier and better. And I may have talked about this once before, but it's worth repeating because just our experience, I'm going to use our experience recently traveling to and from Atlanta. We talked last week about the Eden Conference, Eden Alternative Conference and DAA Conference in Atlanta. We were really lucky, but I'll tell you a little bit about why we're really lucky. But I also want to talk a little bit about um, traveling by air and a couple of helpful tips and hints. Um, and it's going to be centered around this. These are lanyards, and these lanyards are, it says hidden disability. And it will give you a lot of um, help and ease with traveling if you get these. Now they're available free at most airports. So go to an airport and most information booths will have a lanyard. You can ask for the lanyard. It's a dementia or hidden disabilities lanyard. And the person with the disorder should wear that. And in most airports, they know what it means. Now, they're much more prevalent, by the way, in Europe. So, and if you're going to do international travel and you're trying to go with someone who has a cognitive disorder, these will be even better for you because most airports in Europe have a desk with these lanyards, these flowers above it to tell you that this is where you can go for help. Um, but what they do is they tell you that um, tell the, everybody who works at the airport that I have a neurocognitive disease and I'm going to need some extra help. It also gets us early boarding, and early boarding. With somebody with anxiety, which most people with any sort of um, disorder or dementia has, it you can talk to my wife. I could I'm reminded. This was a little bit before security, but I remember I I used to travel a lot for work, and I would come up just before the gates were closing, walk into the airport, walk right up to the gate, give them my ticket, walk on in. There were no security. I was a last minute guy. Uh, and not that last minute anymore. In fact, we come very early. And of course, by the way, we were also very lucky. I'm going to give you a second hint. There's two hints here in this, so listen through. The second hint may be even more important than the first hint. And that first hint is this: get yourself a lanyard for your travel companion, or if you're the one with the disease and traveling hidden disability. It tells everybody that you need extra time and extra help, often extra guidance, finding the gate, um, how to get to wherever you're going, sometimes even how to pay for things. I don't always remember and know how to do that, or where to go to pay for things. Um, so where do you get this? So they are available at most airports, at the information kiosk. They can also be available, at least in the Washington, D.C. area, at the USO offices. They're relatively new. They're becoming much more widespread. So far, there are no desks in the American airports for special help for those with neurocognitive disorders. There are in Europe, but they are recognized. So Susan and I flew to Atlanta this past week and back, and I got to the airport in Washington and realized I had forgotten my lanyard. Oh my goodness, what we can do now? We got through security pretty easily, but I stopped and I went to the security desk. I said, "Any chance that you all have copied some of these, that I could have when I forgot mine?" Well, on a shout out to the security at the Reagan National Airport, because the woman says, "Look, let me go get you one." She went outside of the security, walked to the info desk, got another one, and came and brought it back and gave me one. So people know what they mean and how important they can be for us. And so if that happens, but typically the information kiosk. Now we got through security, went into the main corridor, and we saw an info desk. I said, "Let me ask, because maybe he would have had it. I'm just curious, so I'll know next time." And I stopped, and yes, there was a young man, he was a man, behind the info desk. I said, "Any chance that you give these out in here?" I had forgotten. He said, "Oh, yes, here, I take another one." And then he went on, just happenstance, that this young man also was a musician, and he and some fellow musicians play for senior living centers. And he was so glad to talk about his work in helping seniors and elders, as we're now being called. So then it does get me early boarding. Now, early boarding can be a little complicated depending on which airline you take. When we make reservations, I look under the airline's website, or if you use a travel counselor, tell them. And there are sometimes where you can put down within your reservation that you have a disability. I'm not sure how much it helps unless you want a wheelchair, in which, by the way, using the wheelchair, even if you are not mobily disabled significantly, but if you get lost and get confused and walk around, the wheelchair can also be used and ordered. And that gets you early boarding. So again, I think a lot of people don't understand how much routine activities change for those of us with cognitive disorders. Things that were second nature, never took a second thought. And travel is one of them, because you can get in a crazy airport, and look, if you've been traveling lately, you'll know that lots of people, lots of slow lines, lots of disorder, and that certainly triggers a lot of us. Thank God I have my cognitive navigator, my wife, Susan, who travels with me, and she helps a lot. I don't know if I've told this before, but this was a while ago. Susan and I were traveling. We were in Iowa. And as we were going through security, and we put our bags up on the belt, I was wearing this, and I put my bag up and I left, and then Susan was there, and the TSA agent said, "Are you with him?" Pointed to me. She said, "Yes." He said, "I'll take care of your bag. You go and stay with him." He knew what these meant. He had been trained. And yes, it is better with Susan near me. So far, nothing terrible has happened, but it can be confusing, and I much prefer having her nearby. And then on the return, again, it made a huge difference. And this is on the return flight that I also want to talk about. This is my second airline travel guide. And by the way, let me stop now, go back for a second. These are available at the airports. They're also available for purchase online. They're free at airports. I just looked online, and There are places that sell them for $5.95, and there are places that sell them for $35.95. So get there, get to the airport early, find an information kiosk if you need it. And, for any disability, it doesn't have to be just neurological disability. If you have a hidden disability that's not obvious and want to make sure people know, and get the extra time and help as needed, information kiosks or USO offices in most airports have these. Now, the other big hint, and it costs a little bit more money, but Susan, it's the Clear, CLEAR services. And Clear, you pay, I'm not going to remember how much we have to pay for. You sign up, they do a very thorough, and their booths, Clear is at the airports, big airports, not at every airport, the larger airports. They have a kiosk where you can sign up, and then there is another one where they'll mail you cards and information, and they get you signed up in their system. They're a walk around. They're a jump the line. You have to be TSA pre. Then you get a Clear, and they have their own lines. We were in Atlanta. The lines were through the roof. About an hour to get through the regular TSA lines. And we walked up to the Clear line. There was no line at all, actually. You go in, you show them, you tell them you're Clear, you show them your ticket. You go up to the little kiosk, they look at your picture, they have your picture, identify you by a picture, and then they walk you to the front of the TSA line, and you'll be right after if there's somebody there, you'll be the next. They stop and let you in first. And we got through right away. And then again, so I think Clear has saved us hours and hours and hours of waiting and inline work over the years, and we find it well worth it. I don't have any financial interest in the company. So there, I very much encourage you to get the lanyards if you need it, and to use the TSA, use Clear, but you have to be TSA pre, and then sign up for the Clear service. And if you do travel by air and you have, and many of us can, remember, we're not going to travel if we're near end stage, but we're going to travel, many of us, as long as we can with our disorders. And then the early boarding, I think everybody else is glad I get early boarding because it takes me quite a while to figure it out, get the seat, and to be seated comfortably. And I don't like having to hold up everybody else. So that's my hints for the day. That's this March hints for people traveling with dementia, traveling with a neurocognitive disorder. Get your lanyards and get your pre-board Clear and become a Clear client. They now have Clear Plus. I don't use that, but it gives you some extra benefits. You'll even be met at the door sometimes. So, but when I travel by air, Clear and have my hidden disability, and we get pre-boarding. So that's my secret. And we always use we don't drive anymore to it. We use a Uber usually. Some use Lyft. And you can tell them the time of your flight, and they'll follow it and be there for you when you get there. And we do that too. So it takes a lot of pressure and still enables us to travel comfortably. All right, I hope you have a good week, and I hope these are helpful for you.